Restoration Cycle interviews experts and individuals who understand the intensifying cycle of economic, societal, and government upheaval, so you can stay ahead of the changes in our world and keep your family safe. Fortunately for us, we can recognize that we're at the precipice, a point in history where we can all see the cycle changing. Where we go from here is up to us. So let's start the conversation, and welcome to the show.
And wherever you are on this beautiful blue planet, give thanks today for another breath. And be grateful for the things you have at your fingertips that you take for granted that so many don't, across the mountain regions of parts of Georgia, Tennessee, Virginia, and especially North Carolina. What you're not seeing on the national news is a disaster that is going to redefine America. When people find out exactly the magnitude of damage that's not being reported. If you can envision something that is so disastrous that a flood comes through a village and you take it in your mind to, oh, I can't believe that is the biggest amount of damage I've ever seen from a flood. And you need to multiply that by 30 to 50 to 70 times in some places in these mountain areas. Small streams, which were 5 feet across, are now 200-foot scoured gorges. Entire towns washed away. Because when you come up from a valley, you generally have the 2-lane road, and you build next to that road. And anything else going up, you need to have it on stilts. Or you cut through the mountain to make a flat area. That water came down so deep and so fast and filled that entire valley of every single mountain there that has a valley, a stream, a river, a creek, a tributary, into, when I say once in 1,000 years of flood water all coming down at the same time, it is 1.5 times more than any other known storm on the planet that has ever rained, ever. Trillions of gallons came down. 1.5 trillion to be exact. The subsequent other storms that followed, the trailing lines of thunderstorms. It is very, very difficult to even know what amount of people are still alive up there that need the help. The devastation is so far beyond even a Hollywood movie in terms of how many people are still trapped in the mountains. And it is such a limited response coming from those state officials, those United States officials. You need to send more people down there. There's grossly at 1/5 of 1/8 of 1,000th of 1% really of what they need, even to get the logistics started and get a hub started. There's not enough helicopters. They need more horses. They need more pack animals. They need llamas, alpacas, horses if they can, donkeys and mules even better. We're going back old school, and you know what's so strange about this? Is beyond helicopter, which is our modern era advantage, many people have taken horses. I've seen so many mule trains that have brought ice up to people who needed it for, like some of their insulin and things. Refrigerators are gone. There's people delivering medical supplies or getting together as community. Old school. And not only old school with community, but old school with values and morals, and old school of using horses and pack animals and pack mules to get supplies up the mountains. There's no roads left anywhere. Anything that had a road next to a stream is completely gone. It is not there anymore. There's no more road. We have just reversed the clock to 1860 across western North Carolina and parts of Tennessee. I really can't even put it into your perspective. I can't even paint this picture for you unless you do and listen and watch. It is deep, and it is absolutely going to shake the core of our country here. And that is a no BS assessment. I absolutely can quantify that our country has been rolled back to the 1860s in Appalachia. The roads are gone. How long will it take to replace the roads? Anything with water. Water pipes busted, the immensity of the torrents. And I'm not even going to say floodwaters or flood torrents that have stripped and gouged the land back to gorges and bedrock where cities and towns once stood. And the response is all citizens trying to help themselves. And that's the best thing about this. You know, if you can find something negative in a very bad situation, the best thing that I have seen is citizens, peoples, communities are coming back together to help each other during this time. Like all those other things kind of fall to the wayside. What's your pronoun? What's your politic? Doesn't matter. I'm trying to stay alive. The response up there is, and if I might continue just for a second, Ransom, like we have been sold a bill of nothingness. We have bought the Brooklyn Bridge because there was about 360 mobile electrical generation units or mobile substations that they could move around in emergencies, but we sent them all over to Ukraine. And now we don't have enough repair for our own states right now, and they need the power so badly. Their generators are gone, line gone, mobile gone. It's all been sent overseas. So now we don't have anything for our own electrical emergency infrastructure, even just band-aiding, if that's a term, or full-on repair, which is going to take quite some time. Again, substations, and they're completely wiped away, like down to nothing. The bolts that is keeping them into the concrete has disappeared. It's been scoured that much. Entire substations gone. Bridges gone, homes gone, neighborhoods, parts of neighborhoods gone. It is so vast. And now we come to the real tonight's program. And, you know, we're going to have to cut the feed on YouTube here when we move forward after, you know, I'm done here and Ransom can speak for a minute, because I'm unequivocally saying we are at a juncture in history that I cannot see that we've seen many times before. The sheer size and magnitude of this disaster, and then people trying to help others in their local community, are now being told they cannot. So I'll read you a direct quote here before we get on here, and this comes from Tennessee Emergency Management Agency, correct title, TEMA. They said TEMA and FEMA personnel are not confiscating supplies. This is a tweet from them here on the Tennessee EMA, at Tennessee EMA, if you're following on X. Any report to the contrary is false. So I'm reporting the news as I'm reading it here. I'm going to take both sides, and it's very important that we look at all the information tonight. This tipping point that's happening in America is this. I cannot believe it is at the South. Again, thanks to overwhelming support from the community, we are continuing a coordinated recovery effort with local leaders to get supplies to Tennesseans in need. Please visit the website to learn where you can volunteer or donate today. And I'm thinking, awesome, you know what? I am motivated. I want to help my people around here. So I am going to run up and volunteer and donate. But again, the statement, TEMA officials originally posted this statement online. While local communities appreciate the volunteer spirit during disasters, please do not send donations that have not been requested by state or local authorities. I'm on ham radio at the top of a mountain, and I found a repeater that finally works, and I'm able to get a hold of somebody, and I need help. I'm not waiting for state or local authorities. You are talking to me as one individual on the other side of that radio that needs help. And if I have a chance to go up there with friends of mine, neighbors of mine, and talk to you directly, and maybe you got kids, you need the diapers, you need the formula, maybe somebody has a medical issue, they need different medicines, food, water, whatever, doesn't matter. I'm talking one-on-one to another person to try to help them, and that is being denied right now. I got a lot more firsthand accounts are coming in of people saying that they're not being able to get into regions or being able to deliver. So again, walking the thread here, And again, I'm just talking about TEMA's news release. TEMA is not accepting volunteers or donations until the life safety mission is complete. Wait, did you not just said to learn where you can volunteer or donate today? And then they tell you, we can't do a thing until the next one, maybe. They want you to donate directly to FEMA, of course. TEMA works with TVA, which is the Tennessee Valley Organizations Active in Disaster, TOVAD. So what is this mixed messaging that we're getting here? I'm going to read through a bunch of the comments tonight that I've been surfing through the day. And also, as I was listening to Repeater, if you go to Broadcastify, you can listen to a couple that repeaters that are live currently. So the newest information I had just minutes before the show here, Mount Mitchell repeater on Echo Lake checking in now. Also, West Piedmont repeater antenna broke off during the storm, but there are those with antenna on the way up to West Piedmont repeater, which will then be able to link. So that's the whole thing about getting the ham network up. And see, ham is not, it's individuals setting a network up that want to prepare for things just like this, and they're the only ones in town with information, with coordinates, with rally locations, with the items that they need to be delivered up there. But nobody wants to listen. They just come rolling in with their big old 30 train wagons with their little red lights on it like it's some choo-choo set with an ego attached to every single helmet. It's our scene now. Wait, you don't even know the first thing about the mountain. You don't know where the hollers are. You don't know anything. Well, we're looking at a map. You're out here. Don't let anybody pass in. Like, what are you? You know, it's that same kind of mentality that is now. There's different areas that are under control that are literally under federal control where you cannot go in. They actually took over a whole area, and if you go in, it's federal laws you're breaking because they took federal control over it. Oh, also, if I may, this is YouTube. If you're listening, this is a public service announcement from the American Red Cross. And this is for North Carolina and emergency situations in East Tennessee. We do not label blood products as containing vaccinated or unvaccinated blood, as the COVID-19 vaccine does not enter the bloodstream and poses no safety risk to the recipient. If you have safety concerns about potential blood transfusions, please speak with your medical care team. Unquote, from the American Red Cross. I would leave that there, but there are rally points, and as we come through tonight, I do want to read some of the things. Now, Ransom, I don't know if you're hearing about what's going on out here, because it sure isn't making very much national news, and it is a travesty beyond all travesty. Everybody at anything in FEMA, you're all fired. You work for us, you are all fired, and we as locals are going to take care of this situation. All of them are gone. None of them should have a position after this at all. And those associated associations and agencies that are with that are coordinating around the edges. Also, you've dropped the ball so greatly, I don't even know if there's a ball that you ever had to drop. You all should resign, and there should be absolute closure of these agencies. They're doing nothing. They're not there. How can they possibly receive funding if there's only a few? It's almost as if it's an illusion, sort of in The Wizard of Oz, where you have this sheet of 10 or 20, 30 people running around trying to tell everybody else, you have to believe me, now do this. But it's only 30 or 40 people. And they might just come into a hotel and take over a whole hotel and pretend like it's a base station and be like, you have to listen to us now because there's 40 people living in the same hotel. And it's just a mirage of you have to listen to us. But then they have all these people below them going, yeah, we have to listen to them. We have to listen. You have to listen to them. But wait. It's the Wizard of Oz pulling the strings, Ransom. Welcome. Dude, I know I rambled on the beginning there, but I really want you to know how crazy it is out here. And we need more news coverage, and we need more people talking, and we need more resources, and we need more help. Truly, truly, truly. Everybody, please Tell somebody you know if you're listening to this that we need more help out here. So Ransom, please go.
Yeah, I don't want to get us put in jail right away.
Ooh.
Right? So here in a minute, I will put the links to Rumble and Twitch and Twitter and whatever into the universal chat thing that goes out to all the feeds that have chat.
Yeah, and we'll cut this one because I want to go deep, man. I really want to go deep on this episode.
Right, but before we get there, it's pretty obvious to say without, getting any law enforcement upset about what I'm saying, that if you listen to last Thursday's broadcast, I literally, like a psychic, told you what was going to happen. I told you that you had to help yourself. I told you no one was going to come to help you. I told you it was going to be like Katrina. I told you the government's after the fact reporters and don't do anything when it comes to the actual event that you would need said help from. And I've been seeing, I've been arguing the last couple of days with kind of more leftist state worshiping people that, oh, you're wrong. The federal, government is helping as best as they can and all of this other stuff. I've been watching in detail from the people that live there. Who cares what the authoritative sources are saying? Ask the people that live there. They're all over the interwebs. They're all over. You think all of those people are lying? No, they're not. And the crazy, horrible, terrifying things that they're saying are most likely real. And I think soon there's going to be a lot of censorship to cover up what is visible from this event, which amounts to a giant red streak of voters in the middle of the country that have been proven just like before. It's not the first time. It's not like we, shame on me or whatever, like Bush says, shame on me, blame it on me. No, that's not the saying. Is it fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice? That's shame on me again, because that's the way I am. So I'm going to say it backwards. But, some people get fooled once, but you shouldn't be fooled again, right? The
Who said that too in a famous song? Don't get fooled again.
Right? Well, I'm joking around and saying it messed up on purpose, like old George Bush, who was in charge of, ironically, the last episode that you should have, fooled me once right there and figured it out, that FEMA is not really interested in your safety. If they were, they would be working on proactive steps to increase the infrastructure, actually have aid in places where you don't have to ship it everywhere, where the whole, country has to worry about giving it. And then on top of that, the after the fact reporters are not going to share credit with anybody that's actually doing the on the ground work, right? They're not going to say, hey, look at all of these wonderful people that save people and brought stuff. They don't want to do that. They want to get up there like they do every time, and you'll have some kind of law enforcer stand there representing their agency, and what do they do first? Do they say, it's a shame what's happening, we're sending help? No, they're not going to do that. They're going to say, I'd like to thank so-and-so from the so-and-so, and I'd like to thank Deputy so-and-so and the administration. We got to thank them, and let's thank the head of FEMA, and let's thank everybody and talk about what a good job we've done and pat ourselves on the back on national TV after you guys ignored it for like 3 or 4 days, just like Katrina. You remember famously Kanye West had his song, I don't know, but she's a gold digger, and he added a little verse there, and it kind of went famous. I think we all know what I'm talking about, that George Bush doesn't care about a certain kind of people. Well, it wasn't that. It was that, just not what the guy said it was. It was George Bush don't care about the American people because, look, they're just not caring. They're not doing anything. But it was an excuse for them to grab more power, put more money into their agencies. So, convincing the public that next time, don't worry, next time we'll be prepared because this happened and we took all your money, your trillions and trillions of dollars. So next time we'll take care of you. But then next time happens, and guess what happens? They're arguing that they're broke. They spent too much money on different programs that are irrelevant to the American people. Overseas, here domestically, we just spend, but not on anything that elevates or makes the American people have a better lifestyle and be safer and more free. Not once, not never, and it still hasn't happened. And this is a good example of that. And just like, unfortunately, like I said, not to be Nostradamus, but last Thursday we told you, if you don't know the topographical situation there, you might want to be figuring that out. You might want to be figuring out where the high ground's at. You might want to figure out what you're going to be drinking for the next week. We talked about the whole thing, the power outages, the loss of life, unfortunately, that may or may not happen. Now we know it's happening, and it's happening big time. Look at all those people, unfortunately, and I'm not trying to trash them, because some of the situations, it didn't matter if you were prepared for or not. It just didn't matter. When a 15-foot of wall is coming at you with the pressure of an entire hurricane's dumping water. But we did talk about it. Flash flooding in the areas. If you live in valleys or mountains or anywhere where water can accumulate, you better know how to get out. And then I'm looking on, the interwebs, and I'm seeing people sitting in floodwaters in their houses waiting for help. And unfortunately, like I said, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I did mention it last week that there would be a massive amount of people that are deer in the headlights, and they're waiting for the government to come help them, or Superman or Batman or whoever they were expecting to come that is not coming. You have to help yourself always and forever. And that means, unfortunately, you have to think into the future and prepare yourself for the unimaginable, which all of these people are now dealing with. But I guarantee you, there's a large portion of country boys that just got wet, and they went out there and gathered up all their stuff, and they started right away, making a fire and making themselves comfortable and finding what food there was, and they're probably helping their neighbors out. You're not hearing about any of those stories because the whole swath, like an eighth of the U.S. is kind of cut off from the world, despite all of the Starlinks going in there. Those people didn't know that Starlink was, they don't have internet, so how would they know that they're distributing internet everywhere unless they stumbled across it or, heard it word of mouth. So this whole situation.
Or heard it on ham radio.
Right.
Heard it on ham radio.
Right. If they were prepared and were thinking about stuff like that. I do have a ham radio. It's the old school, what is it, a Hummerland or Hammerland or something like that. I don't know. I don't even know how to use it. I have a book that tells me how to use it. And see, I'm way behind.
You need to practice, man.
Right, I know. And I was thinking maybe I should just go digital and forget trying to learn that old stuff. But guess what? After all the digital crap got wet, that old stuff there can be dried and cleaned, and all the tubes can be cleaned, and you can put it back together. If you have a book that tells you how, or you already know how. But the point is that, even with thinking about all of the stuff that you could possibly think about, thinking about all of the things that can, possibly be inevitable, like, I don't know, a hurricane rolling into the U.S. It's not like it hasn't happened before. Matter of fact, it happened in 1916 and again in 1958, right up that same area, flooding all of those same people. But I guarantee you the general population didn't know that. They had no idea that historically, every once in a while, a hurricane will roll right into inland and dump massive amounts of, converted ocean water right on them, and there's no place for it to go, especially if it's, rained essentially the average amount that it does in an area. The ground is now full of water, and there's no place for that water to go but on top, which means pushing against your houses, your buildings, your cars. A lot of people have built their home on high ground, but then again, I go to places like in Colorado and different places, they have a lot of nice houses, but guess what? They're right on the edge of the river today. And the river today is obviously not where you want to put your house. You want to put the the house on the furthest point that you could see geologically in history. It's flooded. So in other words, you want your house to be all the way up where there's no evidence of flooding. Unfortunately, you're in what we call out west an arroyo, which is basically a big ditch which fills with water immediately because the surrounding ground is either super dry where it won't let any water penetrate in, or it's already saturated, in which case you get a similar effect, which is just large amounts of water moving along the top of the ground, washing away whatever's in its path. The unfortunate part about this is that I was so right. We were right about every detail of this in advance. Last Thursday when we were talking about when it was first hitting the coast, that this was going to be exactly the case. And I even mentioned Katrina multiple times because that's exactly what this is. It's a giant, incompetent, deadly mess. And with that, I'll switch over and turn off the YouTube so we could talk about a little more graphic stuff. But if you could keep it peaceful for another 5 minutes while I set up some, tell all the audiences the links to Rumble and Twitch and etc., so they can continue listening if they want to.
And I'll continue on with the substations, because getting heavy equipment up there, as I've seen in many a county, all of their Department of Transportation equipment was also washed away in the flood or extremely damaged to the point of it's salvageable. If it wasn't washed away completely to we can't find it anymore, it went down the river, of a truck or a dozer or some kind of excavator or whatever is there for Department of Transportation that they would need, salt clearing plows, this sort of stuff. The plows would be useful now also just to push a bunch of debris out of the way, not just for snow, but to push anything off the road. But there was massive floods that came through all those DOT yards also. So their equipment's gone. So they're waiting for equipment to bring into that, to actually get to the roads that they could have. They don't even have the equipment. They're waiting to get equipment in so then they can go do what they would have done off the bat had they had the equipment. So we're like 2 steps back getting heavy equipment up into there anyway to do real road anything, but there's really not much road left. That's the whole thing that I'm trying to get back is all the infrastructure we put in place, like let's say from the TVA projects in the 1930s up until now in North Carolina, has been washed away to a great extent. And all what you consider the moderns, like modern piping, conduit, this sort of thing, also just mangled and ripped out of the earth violently. The telephone poles, the lines up there, the fiber optic cables, that you should see some of these just ghostly pictures of just things dangling in the air that don't make sense how they got so twisted and are still just dangling there and not falling to the ground. Like what is this woven dispersion inside broken 100-year-old oak trees, and then you have a telephone pole dangling that's been ripped out by the bottom on these cables in the middle of the road above you. I wouldn't really want to drive under that, but it is in the fog, no less. Like these kind of ghostly images. Regardless of that even being built, they're going to have to rebuild almost every single, and I'm not going to say every, but almost every single road in Western North Carolina will have to be rebuilt from scratch, from the ground up, with the surveyors there, with the packing equipment to level it and then resurface it. Literally every single road. Even if you had a four-wheeler, it would be very difficult to get up there. You are only going in by pack mule. I'm telling you, if you're not walking. And here's the thing. Old school, everybody would know the old logging roads and old access trails anyway. Like it'd be way better to walk up an old logging road that even if it has some growth on it, than it would be to try to walk like at 30, 45 degrees off the side of a mountain and try not to slip down. It'd be way easier to walk on the old logging road. And a lot of it's clear because people still use those. So the locals are going to know where it is, and you could take pack animals in there on those old logging roads to the same places because that's how they used to get the coal or the lumber or whatever out of there. Like trace back history for a minute. Like they used to have small gauge rail all over the place, especially when they were stripping this place for lumber all over the Appalachian. They nearly clear cut this entire mountain range in many, many places and then exported all this lumber out. And if you take a look at the copper mines and just strip this whole mountain range, in the 1800s, you wouldn't know that today looking at it, but it has been severely damaged by humanity but it's bounced back. I mean, we got all these national parks and everything out here. But just take a step back in time. Where were the mining towns? Where were the roads going to the mining towns that were given up for a larger highway or a larger state route further down? And those places just kind of got really small and a lot of people left, How do you get over a mountain the road was abandoned in 1940? but it's still there, and I'm sure a pack mule can make that journey. There's many ways in at the moment if you have pack animals and if you have helicopters, but pretty much everybody else not. And I wanted to read one comment I think I'd highlight. Oh yeah, Ransom, you're talking about building on a hill. So we're over on Rumble here, and this is a comment off the live. Hilltop Prepper. Hello from Newport, Tennessee. Seen a lot of horse trailers today. I will say, yeah, a lot of people are staging out of Newport to head up. And I'm wondering also on the other side of Cherokee, once you get up past Fort Loudon Dam and you're getting up in there, like, how badly anything was, and if that would also be an access point from Cherokee going up in there further, because you wouldn't have to go all the way down, but it would be closer in the mountains. There's more transportation into like Pigeon Forge past in Newport, that sort of thing. Okay, so back to the power again. You come up to everything's been washed away, the roads, the bridges, everything that any sewer lines, any kind of telephone wires, poles, everything's just been scoured down out of the mountain. So you got to start back. So I'm looking at this as we don't have the 360 substations worth of transformers and other electrical equipment sitting in stockpiles. See, that was all sent overseas. So you know how long it takes to produce a transformer, to manufacture one of those? That is not a easy task. And here's the thing, even from the power spokesman here, Jesse D. Jenkins, says it could take a very long time to restore power to everyone. And also, that was a flood damage event, and not many people had flood insurance because the mountains normally don't flood like that, ever. So people don't have the flood insurance. Now, couple this with all of, let's try to get these mountains and get people out of them and get people off the product. Now, this has just been a general trend. I'm not talking about all the talk of mining and things that are out there around in Western North Carolina. I am only talking in a general sense where since this last couple of years, when the COVID came, a lot of people went out and got really self-sufficient real quick, ended up buying property, like a huge mass migration out of the cities into the countryside. And that was the opposite of really, they want to try to get everybody, at least most governments in the Western Five Eyes and others, back into the cities. So they're not so far out in the countryside. For some reason, they want everybody, if they could in their wildest pipe dream, get everybody rounded up into larger metropolitan cities and have the entire countryside devoid of human life and turn it all back into eco zones. And this was the grand plan. And Ransom, I've talked about this before, just in a general sense, like the movement forward and the rest of our lives, at least unless we do something about it, the plan is to rewild the world, basically. Put humans in cities, but you'll have everything you need. It's super close, man. I don't care if it's whatever want in life that you need will be approximately 15 minutes in your horizon or on your space. 15 minutes. That's why they call them 15. Well, that's the way forward. And everybody's got to come out of the countryside for that, but not a lot of people want to go. Now, where is one of the most entrenched areas, like Tennessee here too, East Tennessee, there's been families here for 7-8 generations. I mean, they make fun out here and say, you know what, if your family's not here, haven't been here 3 generations, you can't say you're local. You know what I mean? Like that kind of length of living off the land, knowing every square inch of your property and that kind of community together. It's only recently that it's kind of gotten split off. So, you come back from the last couple hundred years here, the last 20 has kind of lost a lot of the old ways. But people are going to be helping each other, and it's strange how they don't have any way to repower them. So who's going to stay in the mountains if you don't have power for 6 months, 8 months, a year, coming into winter also. So obviously things are going to be way slower in winter. So when the main spokesman says we don't have, you got to get this. So everybody, you ever driven by a substation before, although, the transformers and different things sticking out of the ground, you're looking, whoa, look at all those wires connected to this, that, and the other. And you're like, man, that's huge. And you can hear the zzz sometimes when you go by and you just look at it and you go, you can feel the energy coming out of that thing. 360 of those are gone or non-functional or destroyed. So they have to rebuild 360 of those and then rewire the entire western section of North Carolina. And then they're going to have to put fiber optic through there too, unless the plan was just to use digital satellite or the Starlink or something. It can't be rebuilt in our world today with the cost. It would take a Manhattan Project style to get everybody back to safety and then to rebuild that part of the country. Would be a Manhattan style, but in a modern day, and it would have to be at much larger volume because you're talking about earth moving and earthworks equipment, not just mining uranium or, doing diagrams on a board somewhere. This talks about how much asphalt would it take to resurface all of Western North Carolina and parts of Tennessee and parts of Virginia and also parts of Georgia. And then how long would it take to rebuild the roadbed of each of those as well? And at the same time, all the sewers need to be rebuilt. Every single line, underground, all those 2-inch pipe, all that stuff needs to be reinstalled. Like an enormous amount got ripped up. Where do we even start? Where do we even start? And the whole thing about FEMA taking control of all these areas up here. I get it. Okay, they need the presence. Okay. But a lot of reports are coming in saying that they are stifling even. And I'm going to go onto my net here and see what it says here. Oh, hold on, I got the wrong one. We're going to go on the non-Bisman. So FEMA has, let me find there. They were saying also only donate to churches that are exempt from the FEMA confiscation that's happening. So when you're coming onto a network that says something like this, okay, is it true? Is it not true? I mean, who's on the ground firsthand that has actually seen something like this that can attest to it? When I was on, I think it was, I was on Mike Adams' show the other day, and he was sending messages through. They're trying to get food up. And Ransom, you'd sent me, I think, something on X there was talking about Prolisec was saying that My Patriot Supply was unable, even with their food supplies, to get up in the mountain, that they were turned back also. Like when I start to see something at this level where you're going beyond like me and Ransom with our pickup truck trying to get up mountain with our chainsaws, right? You're coming into a proper, companies are coming in now with our loaded 18-wheelers, and we manufacture and we distribute across the planet our own foodstuffs that are storable foods in Mylar bags. And we're coming here with our own stuff, and everybody's supporting, giving donations, or either buying one and getting one free to make sure that one of those goes up to those mountains. And when they get there, they're blocked from going up and distributing. That's crazy too. So again, what kind of world are we living in here? And the reason we came off YouTube is because there's already many reports of, let's say, well, the looting is one thing in its own, so we'll just leave that in its own category. But the hostility toward those that are trying to deliver supplies to the authorities, and it doesn't have to be just FEMA side or TEMA side, not just them, but people wearing and holding badges and having some perceived authority over an area, or stopping family members to go up to rescue their own family members because that's not your registered address on your driver's license. And your license plate is one county over. And you're not allowed back on this road. And people are so far over it. That's why I said this is a redefining moment here for America, because the fuse is so short right this second of people being they can't go up and help and rescue their community members, their family members, or even those just in need. Because why? They didn't take a class from the United Way to be able to walk over the street and go give food. Oh, no, wait, you can't give it that food. It has to be approved food first. So the reason we called the show tonight Redefining, because I really believe that this is a pivotal moment for American history as we're living through it. there seems to be a standoff. And I will say that one Bundy Ranch standoff is probably about the best equivalent I can give for it. Is if you go and you look at the Bundy Ranch, it was about grazing land and water rights and having cattle on multi-generation land that's, gone back almost 180 years, something like this, in family generational land. And they're like, well, you can't use it anymore today because we said so. So there was that big standoff there, and that was about cattle and water on grazing rights. And then they had that big standoff, and you saw the thing go off in the news, and it was everywhere at the Bundy Ranch, right? But now the same exact thing was happening. You got the federal employees and state employees standing in front of all these people, and then instead of it being cattle and water rights, it is family, starving people, and those that need rescue, and you're standing in the way of my family members getting help. Of anybody that they know that have been able to raise them on radios that they need help, and you're not letting us go up there. And this is the same standoff that is going on now. It's coming to a head. I can't say when, but tensions are getting very, very, shall we say, tight. And if you've been watching through X and seeing a bunch of feeds, there's an enormous amount of people descending on this place just to push that specific button. Because we have supplies and we are going to help. You are not. You're too slow. You're inept. You've given all our emergency equipment away to other countries. We need to help our own citizens because it's no longer the federal government can. Here it is. FEMA's already broke. Apparently, FEMA has declared bankruptcy. And now there's some investigations going on under how did FEMA become bankrupt. So now a bunch of those, I guess in Congress are starting to ask these questions to get some sort of investigation into how did FEMA have no more funds left for the rest of the hurricane season, and how are they out of money already and become broke? And it's just about a refunding. I mean, obviously they'll get refunded next year in the funding bill. It is at this point, there is not enough money for a federal response at all in any way, shape, or form. They'd really need 1,000x of what they're doing now, 1,000 times more. 1,000 times more people, 1,000 times more equipment, 1,000 times more food from what they have staged right now. And the locals are like, dude, we got it. We got it covered. We know all the routes. We know all the hollers. We know all the roads. The logging roads. We got this one. And we knew this way. There's the shortcut around the mountain because we used to hunt up there. We used to play as kids. We used to ride bikes. We used to ride four-wheelers and our motorcycles. And they know every square inch of this way. There's the shortcut around every square inch. They all, amount of people that grew up here that know this place like the back of their hand, and they know all these ways into different places to help people. And they're being told they can't. The locals that live here told you're not allowed back to go help your own people in your place, even though you know how to get the stuff there like way faster than we can. And they're told, no, you can't, just because. And then there's no explanation given except you're impeding the rescue effort, and like we can do it faster. No, you're impeding it. You have to go through us. And people are not having it anymore. I would say, with this new moon coming up and changes in the electromagnetic field that are occurring right now, there's going to be some, larger electromagnetic changes coming up here at the end of the month. Now, is it the X7 flare that went off 3 days ago, and then today, subsequently, another X9 Earth-facing coming right at us? They're saying there wasn't a lot of debris, but they need to let it pass one of the satellites to figure out how much debris is coming per cubic centimeter, and maybe they're deflecting, maybe not. It was an X9 Earth-facing directed straight at us off the face of the sun. Now, these types of things are increasing. So imagine the way the brain is processing information and how angry it might get. And this might explain why our world is becoming angrier. Not a Klaus Schwab thing, but if the electromagnetic resonance across our planet and greater solar system from the sun is resonating at a different frequency, your brain's picking up electrical frequency and signaling in a different way and processing that information in your brain. So if the Earth's magnetic field has changed because the sun's magnetic field is changing, do you think there might be some correlation as to how people might perceive reality or interpret reality in a slightly different magnetic field? one that we weren't born into, one that has changed since we've all been alive. We are at a crux in history. All I'm going to say to this again, you're witnessing history unfold in front of you, and you're about to witness a different directional take on the country in this part of the country as well. They don't want you to fly drones. There was a NOTAM, notice to airmen, and all out ban on flying drones anywhere over North Carolina, anywhere over Tennessee and the disaster areas, because they don't want you to document the footage and the true disaster and the true nature of this. There's so many things I don't even want to talk about. Like things they're seeing up there, these rescuers. There was a surgeon who went out and he came back and was like, I just can't go. I've seen too much already. There's too many of them up there. And just statements like that from a surgeon, like you would think they would be, I guess, more anesthetized. No pun intended in the surgery thing, but you think they would be used to seeing it, but they weren't. It freaked them out so badly that they're like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. That's the kind of help they need up there, where citizens by the tens of thousands are gathering to help get all these supplies into the mountains. But at the same time, you have this national, management system of emergency that's now trying to prevent people from going in. So what if it's only, 2 or 3 FEMA clowns that are there in the front, and we're like, you can't pass this road, and then there's 100 people on a horse train behind going, yes, we can. No, you can't. Yes, we can. No, you can't. Yes, we can. At that point, something breaks. And then the America we knew is going to be different from that point forward. Because you have to look at it. That Bundy Ranch standoff was a really good equivalent of what's happening. Like, it literally came down to armed officers from the feds at the base of the bridge with armed citizens at the base of the bridge, all live, streaming. What if something had shot off there? Like, that would be a pivotal moment in human history, and not just United States history, but human history. That you would see something live on television like that, but they have flipped it and it is exactly the same. And think about how, I don't have a descriptor word, Ren, so maybe you can find me one, to stop supplies going up there because you're not getting a kickback for your preferred provider or your preferred manufacturer. And your head is so big and your ego is so inflated that you think you have the audacity and the right to stop people just because you say they can. They cannot go up there because why? There should be, give me a word that describes that, like the non-feeling of another human that they're suffering up there. They have been out with no food and water in many instances for 4 to 5 days. And there's help literally around the corner, and they're told no.
It's called communism.
Yeah.
No, it is. It's called communism. What happens in communism? That's exactly what's going on. The state and these private corporations are merged, having the authority to dictate who gets to help and who doesn't get to help. The whole thing is disgusting, and that's exactly what's going on. It's straight up communism and a stand down. It's they're privatizing the idea of rescue. Like I was saying before, they want to be the ones to congratulate each other. They don't want to act. They don't care what's happening, actually. They just want to be the one that says, we did this, I did this, thank you, Deputy so-and-so and Congressman so-and-so, and then they get around and they pat each other's back. In the real world, you have thousands of private citizens that are competent, right? They're competent. They own equipment. Matter of fact, I was watching a video just a minute ago where some, I guess you can call them hillbillies in the hills there. He got his excavator out and his friend with the other piece of construction. They're just making a road. They just made the road, and people were driving out behind them as they made the road. They don't want drones in there because they want to have a monopoly on rescuing, a monopoly on the credit, a monopoly on the power. And that's why you see, like, fire chiefs and different people threatening people to arrest them. And now that we're not on YouTube, we could go ahead and say what's going on. It's exactly like Katrina. I've seen sheriffs talking about you can't use your Second Amendment. I've seen sheriff's departments threatening to arrest people for taking their own belongings out. We've seen Venezuelan gangs and other arrested, caught in the act of robbing people, just like we were talking about. That's one of the points I didn't want to, harp on while we were on YouTube. But the violence is there. The murder is there. The theft is there. The stand down by the government almost completely. Yeah, they're getting together their money, but what always happens to the money? It gets skimmed off the top. It gets used for other programs. We gave it to, Israel. We gave it to Ukraine. We gave it to millions of undocumented people, giving them food assistance, housing, travel, things like that. Meanwhile, they want to slap you in the face and offer $750 to flood victims, which, you know what? I hate to tell you, I live here in the desert. I can't even pay my electric bill for $750. It's a joke. We're getting up to $600, $700 worth of energy bills in the summer just to not die in the 110 heat, because your house gets a lot hotter than that. So you can't be in your house if it's not cooled. It's just, and think about that. What happens when there's a power grid failure in the middle of the summer in desert areas, like, I don't know, the whole state of Arizona or something like that? What happens then? You'll see the exact same thing. Government stand down, sluggish response, lethargic activity by the supposed authoritative sources, media, and response. Now, I'm not, trying to disrespect first responders that want to. It's not like there's not plenty of people in government, in the National Guard, in the fire departments, in the sheriff's departments that want to do the obvious, logical, right thing to do, which is just go in there, get help like they used to do from the community that's still standing, and you get them to help their neighbor fix the problems that's going on. How come you don't hear about, massive loss of life and no government response back in these other hurricanes? It's because that there were no restrictions on communities and people fixing their own problems. It's because people weren't so dependent on the shipping and just-in-time nature of the supply chain. And now look what that does when it comes to it's just in time. Well, right now is the time. What happens to it? Oh, we're going to have a strike at the dock because the AI and robots are taking all the jobs. So we need to have a 60% increase, or I'll quote, cripple America. Right? One guy.
I think they got this. I think they got that. I remember looking on Zero Hedge a minute. Yeah, so that strike's already over.
Yeah, right. Because they got a 62% increase in pay so that they don't complain about the AI slowly replacing their jobs. Meanwhile,
we'll be back protesting in 3 months because AI is moving so fast.
Well, actually, they're supposed to. This is only a hold off until January 17th. Before they have the actual agreement going on. So no telling where that's going to go between now and then. It could be a second October surprise just here in a few days or in a week or next month. But the point is that there's corporations tied up with government that drag their feet when distribution and supply and demand is demanding. They don't care because they hold the controls of power. And while we're sending the biggest transformation of wealth, as Obama eloquently put it, overseas to fund World War III, they got caught with their pants down, being ineffective, broke, and showing the country the real state of things, that we are on the teetering on collapse. One storm and a whole portion of the country is at a standstill. And ironically, a big red voting portion of the country. So what do you think they're going to say in, 30 days at election time, that they can't, they can't count it up, or, there's disputes about who won or who didn't win because of votes here and there. Well, there was a storm. Guess what happened in 2020? Don't you remember 4 years ago? We were talking about almost the same thing through Florida, Alabama, and Georgia, where the power was out. Right at voting time, they had a hurricane 4 years ago. Same thing. A bunch of people that get disenfranchised because of weather, because local supposed infrastructure couldn't hold up because there was no response.
It's unknown if early man knew they would be the progenitors of great civilizations, or if they knew when their empires would fall and disappear into history. Fortunately for us as modern man, we can recognize that we are at the precipice, a point in history where we can see the cycle changing. Where we go from here is up to us.
How do you feed your families when the shelves are empty, the stores are shut, and there's no food available? What is the fastest, easiest, and most productive foods to grow? What is the quickest way to get somebody who has no skills at all up and running and producing very quickly? If you understand that we're at a point in history where it is no longer optional to be growing your own food, if you're like really freaked out and concerned because you've never grown food before and you don't have any skills, you don't know how to do that, but you know how important it is, then I want to let you know, however you stumbled here, you're in the right place. My name is Marjorie Wildcraft. I'm the founder of the Grow Network, and I have been the female leader in the survival and preparedness space for the last 20 years.
How to grow lots of food, even if you have no experience, are older and out of shape. This is for people who want the fastest and easiest ways to produce healthy and delicious meat, eggs, and vegetables. Because you know that growing your own food is like printing your own money. During this webinar, you will get status of global food shortages, how long the crisis will last, how much space you need to grow food, easiest, highest calorie foods you can produce, a complete plan for producing all the food you need, how to get started today, regardless of season. Marjorie will show you the fastest, easiest, and simplest ways to produce calories and nutrition, especially in a crisis and/or grid-down situation. The assumption is that you have no experience and you need to start producing food immediately. The most popular part of the webinar is the Q&A session at the end. So please come prepared with your questions.
Pro Clear Cleanse is the most powerful spray cleaner on the market today. No elbow grease necessary. Pro Clear Cleanse cuts through grease and grime like a chef's knife. Finally, the one cleaner that can do it all. Powerful surfactant cleaning technology cleans ovens, glass, porcelain, even polished wood. Environmentally friendly, less packaging and waste with no harsh smells, pet safe, child safe. 5 tablets equals 1 bottle of traditional cleaner. It's 5 months of cleaning for a fraction of the cost. Behold the grease-erasing power of Odor Crush. Simply drop a tablet into your bottle of warm water and shake it so it is evenly diluted. Spray the surface you want cleaned. Let set longer for tougher grease. Take a paper towel or a reusable cloth and wipe. Done and done.
Howdy, partner. You know people are having dinner and the smart ones are eating beef. Let me tell you a brief history, or more accurately, a beef history of dinner. Domestication of cattle happened around 8000 BC, but that's not when beef became what's for dinner. We've been eating beef since times before history. The earliest cave paintings have beef eloquently depicted on the walls. Those cave drawings of the hunt were for the aurochs, a primitive bovine. That's right, beef. Like I said, people are having dinner now, and the smart ones, well, they're eating beef. Americans want great food today, but we also want to have great food to eat if things go south in a hurry. Unlike most companies that take the cheapest, worst parts of the cow, then turn them into beef crumbles, whatever that is. They freeze-dry them in hopes that their customers will never actually try to eat it. Our premium beef cubes are sous vide, freeze-dried, and ready to be eaten right now, or in a decade from now. We want you to eat our beef now, so you can buy more. Prep with steaks, not with beef crumbles. This is a high-quality product. It's all American beef and 100% natural. None of that craziness of lab-grown meat and mRNA jabs. Our beef has a shelf life of 10 plus years. This is high-quality cooked and freeze-dried beef for long-term storage or not. Eat well today and eat well tomorrow. Click the link in the description to get your Prepper beef with Prepper All Naturals, so you will always know what's for dinner.
Cycle coming at you. David Dubine, Ransom Godwin, every Thursday night, 10 p.m. to midnight. Revolution Radio Studio A. And if you think free speech is important, please consider a donation right here, Revolution Radio. There's so much going on in the world. Ham operators, ham networks, ham repeaters all seem to be saving the day, and it just shows you the value of local communications versus centralized. Because I went into my own fire department and I was asking them, do you have a list of frequencies that I can listen to? Because if we had a base station here, we could monitor the traffic. They're like, no, it's all gone, all digital, all comes out of Chattanooga now, centralized. And I'm like, what? You don't even have it. You don't even know like local frequencies that y'all are using here. And they're like, no, it's all digital now. It all comes out of a centralized center. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, I can't believe it either. And I was like, well, do you have, can I get something to actually be able to tap into that? And he goes, well, as far as I know, it's a private. And I was like, well, okay, I'll do more research. But that's as far as I got with that, because I was kind of in a hurry and getting out. But Ransom mentioned a very solid thing here. You know, communism is what you call this, where one group of people take control of all resources, manufacturing, and economy, all in a single area, including the individuals and all of their property. But, you know, I was shaking my head as he was saying that statement, because communism, the last place you would ever think communism would first take hold would be East Tennessee and West North Carolina, in the middle of the Appalachia. Like, you know, put that in perspective. It's okay, if you were to read a history book and come back in time and they go, yes, communism started in East Tennessee and Western North Carolina as the seed point for the movement across America, you would look at that and go, no, somebody wrote false history. That doesn't make sense. Those were the two strongest, like, bastions of, beyond political, just family, morals, code, and community. And you would shake your head and go, no. But it does seem that something like this is happening right now. And, you know, one thing, when all these events are going on, you know, the dock workers strike and the thing that was happening over the Middle East for one day, and those red flares coming down, and all kind of different things after psychological, whatever it is. What got passed during that time? So we got the North Carolina thing here gobbling up a huge amount of news space, at least in the Southeast, like everybody's covering this down here, but not in the national news and barely in the international news, but it's enough it took a whole segment of the country's attention. And then we had the whole Israel thing, and everybody was terrified because the rockets came raining down and all this stuff. And now somewhere near Russia got attacked in a Russian airbase. So now everybody's like chewing on their nails again, like, oh, it's going to be. All right, so we got that going. And then the dock workers, and the strike's already over. So if you went and bought a bunch of toilet paper again, hopefully you kept your receipt like you did during COVID. You should have bought food. And hopefully you didn't hoard everything, got like every last bag of rice out of the store, and you got 50 bags of rice, and, you know, you only needed really 2, but fear grabbed you and you took 48 extras. Now all these things are going on simultaneously. So think about that. What's going on behind that? What legislation got passed this week during all this chaos is more the question you might be looking at as well. Usually some sort of bonehead globalist idea. Like, I don't get it. These globalists, you know, you look at them and they want to take complete control of the planet, but there's only ever going to be a certain population that will ever be controlled anyway, and it's already probably the same population that's being controlled right now. So why would you try to rein in the other 15% and awaken the other 50%? You know, I'm not sure that they really understood the human psyche enough that people, especially out here, like in East Tennessee, I came out here because I just wanted to be left alone, man. I'm just going to be on my land out here. I can take care of myself. You don't need to worry about me. I could actually be helping people because I'm prepared enough and I understand, got some skills that could help. You don't even need to worry about me. I got my own fire suppression system out here. Our neighbors work together. We got 250-gallon tanks with pressure washers and this kind of stuff. So don't even worry about me. We can even contain some smaller fires out here. We trade with all the farmers and we get all of our local produce. So we don't even really need supermarkets a lot of time if you get enough during each season, plus you buy a beef, plus you might even get a hog somewhere and a lamb. Leave me alone. And this is the whole type of people that around up here. You wouldn't be living out here if you weren't thinking the same way. Like the world is absolutely moving and twisting into a different direction. So I just chose I'm going to drop out here. Hopefully to be left alone, but it doesn't look like it because the fight has been brought right here into the middle of the Appalachian Mountains. And it's not such a fight as like they're up there and, you know, rounds are being exchanged through like high vantage points where the locals know all the terrain and
yet,
you know, like some idiot comes rolling in like from the city, like we're going to get in there. But this is a battle of the wills, and we're actually going to watch it play out. Either the federal government response is going to stop the locals from going in and they will take control of these areas through fear or intimidation or tactics, or just like it's our place, you can't come in, we're federal. Or they're going to get trampled over and the citizens will actually arrest those officers or whatever. And enough of that movement will take hold and roll over all of that federal response to the point that even if they were to make citizens arrest against the federal agents, that they wouldn't be charged with kidnapping after because you held 2 federal agents against their will. Well, yeah, we arrested them. Citizens arrest. And then get them out of the way so we can go do the rest of the job up here. You know, at that point, it's already, I would say within 4 days, that would happen, 4 to 5 days. I'm just guessing, though. The reason I'm just guessing is because I didn't guess that society would de-evolve so quickly. In 4 days, where looting started to the point where I'm going to read you a quote here, and this is why we want to come off YouTube. I'll read you a quote. And I did this when I was on Mike Adams' show just yesterday. Sheriffs in multiple counties are advising, and this is a quote here, looting is picking up major steam. Anybody out should be carrying with the safety off, unquote. That's where it went in 4 days. Now, I'm shocked. And Ransom and I, you know, and Ransom, maybe you could allude to this here. And a huge amount of people didn't even have 3 days worth of supplies where they're now at hunger. I understand a lot of stuff got washed down in the flood, so I'm with you on that. People who did prepare and they lost their preps, I mean, that's nature. There's really nothing at that point you can do about that, except if you had the skills and you understood, or maybe you cached something somewhere else on your property. And everything doesn't have to be in one central location. You can cache and stash things around your neighbor's property, a different place up in a different house, on a, you know, up in the mountain, the hunting, you know, we got the little hunting hut, you know, something like this. But I was going somewhere with the thought there, man, but I forgot it. Show's yours, Ransom. Thanks for joining us. Second hour civilization cycle. I was going somewhere, and you know how I do that, man. I lose my train of thought sometimes.
You know, you were talking about it's not like they're shooting and stuff like that. Well, you mean yet. And hopefully, you know, that's what is the weak spot of the attack of globalists. You know, they come at us trying to make civil war about class, about race, about sex, about ideologies, and it never happens. Americans, maybe they're too lethargic, or maybe they just don't care, or maybe, you know, to give them credit, there is a core population that's just not stupid and doesn't fall for these things. But that being said, this is one of those things that you could actually trigger people to get to violence. Not letting them get to their loved ones, taking things from them like money and resources that were intended for other people. Telling people that they don't have constitutional rights to travel freely, or that they don't have privacy, or that they don't have possession of their own properties. Because like I said, I've watched video of police threatening people not take their own stuff. There's law enforcement threatening people, don't help people, don't save people, don't go up there, don't fly your stuff, don't drive your stuff. They're trying to stop what is easily and inevitable in any kind of disaster in America, is that neighbor will help neighbor. We'll get over it. You'll see people out there that normally are calling each other racist and don't hang out with each other, dragging each other out of the flood, saving each other's lives. And the grim and unreported part of this, and I know you've probably been hearing your own stories, is that there are bodies everywhere. There's bodies everywhere. They're in the trees. They're in the mud. They're under cars. They're under houses. Houses have been uplifted and moved. There were lots of people abandoning their cars on the interstate. There was all kinds of stuff going on. This is complete havoc. And I think it really is being underreported severely. But then it's going to catch up. The truth is going to catch up. People are going to get out on their own. People are helping people get out, get somewhere, and they're going to start telling people. The question is it too late? Will we be under another regime of we don't care about you? This is a communist state, because that's what it is. They are monopolizing every human activity and trying to police it and have authority over it and dictate how it's done, from how you feel, literally, how you think, what you eat, all of that stuff. Now, on the other hand, if I was in that situation, well, I hate to say it, but I would have already anticipated flooding. All of my supplies would have been chained down to something anchored really, really, really good. You were talking about caches. Not only that, you should have had stuff that was right near you already ready to go, like a water straw. Imagine how many people that are so thirsty right now because they live in a society that does not kind of promote a good living. So there's millions of people that drink soda all day. And, I've been guilty of that too. And guess what happens when you are a person that drinks beer all day, which is nowadays high fructose syrup also. Beer, soda, all of that stuff. You drink that all day. You're never thirsty. Your thirst is quenched in the immediate, instant gratification of having products always available to you. And then what happens is some kind of emergency happens. You don't get your supply of soda or beer or whatever it is that you're used to. And instantly in one day, you are dehydrated faster than the guy that drinks water all the time. You're just totally dehydrated. You're sweating. You're losing more water. It's diuretics that you're used to drinking. So you probably, evacuated all of the moisture that you had available for your body. It ejected it, and now you need water. Well, guess what? I got a water straw like every 5 foot in here. I never used them, ever. Never had the need to use them. I used them one time camping, just to check it out and see if it actually worked, if I'd get sick. They work great. You could drink that nasty flood water that I seen a video of some people just sitting in their living room, like nothing, no big deal. The water was probably about 5 foot high. Their pets are all, floating on the islands of floating furniture in their living room. And I'm thinking to myself, why are you just sitting there? Why haven't you got out and made it to higher ground? Why are you not on your roof? Why are you not like getting your water straws and your emergency, Mylar bags of stuff and all of that stuff that you would have in your house? Obviously, they didn't lose all their stuff. It was all floating in their house with garbage and cigarette butts and water from outside. And, it was just totally gross. And they're just sitting there, guess what? Waiting on someone to come get them, waiting for someone to tell them what to do. And that's the problem that we have right now. So,
Ransom, can I add context to that? I want to
Yeah.
add a little context. Some of those were Airbnb rentals where people were stuck. They were just coming in holidaying and vacationing. Plain devil's advocate on this, but it resorts to the same thing. If you come on a holiday, the very least you can do is, if you come to a different state, is stop at that rest center and pick up a state map so you know how to get out of there. And then when you're in there in the Welcome Visitor Center, they always have maps of where you're going to go in the more of the local ones. There's got to be hot spots, things to see. Do you have a little map for this county where I'm staying? Because I want to see the Judicula Rock, and I want to go to Silva, and then I want to go to Saluda, and I want to check it out. Do I have maps there? Everybody needs to take this situational awareness, even if you're on holiday. So I digress, Ransom.
No, that you're right. When in doubt, know your way out. That's one of the first rules of survival. And, to that point, guess what I do? I travel. And when I travel, there's a water straw in my car. There's a water straw in my bag in my car. I have several these are like little, for no reason. Anytime. Stupid when I'd rather feel stupid for buying stuff I never used, stockpiling stuff I never going to have, use for, or situations I hope. But if it happens, I'm the guy with the knife, the flashlight. I'm the guy that can drink the water. I'm the guy that's not going to be tripping out. My family is going to be safe to the best of my ability and power. And it's only them and only their friends, their community, and their neighbors that are ever going to possibly help you in these situations. And if there is violence, it's going to be over the people calling out the government on what they're doing, which is being communist by privatizing and making deals with people in industry to, completely monopolize rescue, aid, where the money comes from. Why would why would these groups say, no, we don't really need stuff. We just need money. They want to do that because they can move it around and it never gets, appropriated for what it's appropriated for. And this is kind of a nightmare situation that people should wake up to, that no matter where you're at a moment's notice, the government can just drop the idea of, having an oath to the Constitution, as that sheriff is an example, trying to tell people that they're not going to have their Second Amendment rights in his area, just like Katrina. It's exactly like Katrina, which tells you, like I said before, fool me once, it's my fault, I guess. Fool me twice, it's still my fault. I'm being sarcastic, but we saw it twice now. How many times do you need for it to be checked in the box that this is what happens? It's like the history of whether or not your government will be okay with poisoning you. Don't believe me about any of the stuff that's ongoing right now that we talk about constantly. Go ahead and look in the past. Just look in the past and then say, hey, well, if this happens 9 times out of 10, what do you think's happening on the 10th time? Well, in my estimation and my deductive logic, I would say that they will continue to do the same thing until they're held accountable, which is not likely. So if there was any kind of, I'm going to say civil war type thing going on, it would start probably, in my opinion, right there in the Appalachians, kind of like the Hatfields and McCoys, that almost was the second Civil War already. And it wouldn't be between neighbors this time. The neighbors aren't mad at each other now, are they? This was the perfect, I think America, and I hate to say this and sound kind of messed up, but America may have needed this to wake up and realize that things are not in their control and things are not how they're being sold to you. Kind of alignment of America is going to be those that see and those that want to stay in the dream. And, I want to ask you, David, because by next year, there will be 2 different facts, 2 different histories, 2 different opinions about what happened, right? And this goes for every event, January 6th, blah, blah, blah. You can name it. There is that now. It's just like in Star Wars when they make a movie they don't like. Well, that's not canon. Well, what's canon? It's whatever the directors say it is. And just like the TV show, we're constantly having to put up with the directors and the producers arguing about what's canon. In other words, what's canon for reality, not science fiction or fantasy, but canon for reality. And when you look into history, you find out over and over again, the winners, the ones that win every single time, write the history, and the events get taken down like that too. So I hope this time feet are held to the fire. I'm not going to go so far as to say tarring feathering, but some type of accountability needs to happen. And be recognized that the country has sold Americans out, and they have been selling them out for some time. Otherwise, the trillions of dollars wouldn't be going to a bunch of things that doesn't matter for you and your neighborhood. Your government would be investing in you and your neighborhood. They would be investing in, future disasters, infrastructure, promoting farming, promoting family growth, which means more GDP, and going back to the ideas that we pretend that we're using that we're not actually using, just like law enforcement pretends to take an oath to the Constitution, but then when the right circumstance comes, they just completely ignore it. And this whole situation is in a long list of government, bungles, whatever you want to call it. You could call it incompetence. You could call it planning, stand down, whatever. It may be a little portion of all of those things. But just like Lahaina in Hawaii, and just like now, if you left it up to them, you probably regret it. You should have thought about things with your own intellect, planning, and there's that whole saying about the proper preparedness and everything prevents piss for whatever. The whole saying, it's right. And I hate to say it, but no matter how prepped you think you are, there's still going to be things thrown at you. So you're not just prepping for one idea, you're prepping for multiple ideas. And we've talked about this many times, that any scenario idea. I have a bag for a forest fire. I have a bag in case things have gone tits up and I'm leaving forever. I have a bag to restart farming. I have a bag to deal with the flood. I have a bag to deal with, I don't want to say things that people out there are dealing with. And I was going to go down Twitter and show people some of the footage that you're probably not seeing on the news.
Yeah, like do that. I'll ramble on for a second, but I'm sure you can find some interesting
yeah, right. It's easy.
Graphics.
It's just
everywhere.
everywhere.
What I've seen too is some aerial photos of a lot of washed away railroad track, railroad trestles, excuse me, road beds washed away, bridges washed away. Like an enormous amount of infrastructure is gone, including railways, and that's one big way that we move, cargo around the country. Now, just for anybody out there in an emergency situation, we found a bunch of puffball mushrooms out on our property over these last few days. And those are inedible right away, if you know how to identify them. And we got the purple spored one. We got the pure white. You got the white spores, purple spores out here. There's some parasol mushrooms. Make sure the stem's got that, snake skin on it. Just like the easy to identify kind are around right now. Those are forageables. Almost everybody would miss them if you didn't ever identify mushroom. And those are the at least the puffball is like the easiest one ever to identify. It's a big white puffy thing in the field, or it's a big brown puffy thing in the field. And when you cut it open, if it's not 100% white, don't eat it. Otherwise, it's a really delicious tofu substitute. But, think about the way this thing has occurred here. Like you said, if you're going to install communism in America, Appalachia would be your most difficult target. It would be so difficult to invade this place. It would be, impossible for even one of the world's largest armies to come in and invade up and down Appalachia, because after word got out that, blue helmets are down here or whatever's going on, like everybody would get on their positions in the hills. It would be so incredibly difficult for anybody to literally forcefully invade up here. But like it is now, the entry point was the storm into the center of this, and now people can be all disarmed. FEMA's taking control over great swaths of this area. Nobody in, nobody out. Well, what happens when teams of people go in, but nobody can see what they're doing when they're in? And this is the thing. Like you have to think about the strategy of an invasion. To put resources and place them in there, it's like a Trojan horse, what's going on at the moment, under the guise of helping, in the guise of rescue, in the guise of disaster, relief. But these same resources and mind thought are being pushed directly in there to completely control an area of what would have been incredible resistance. It's a damage that, think about it, no different than some sort of hyperbaric or nuclear detonation over an area that would have done the same thing. This was done with water. And now the response to get the federal, whatever it is, doesn't matter, into that place. Yeah, Ransom, go.
No, I was just going to say you've been silent for like 30 seconds. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, Ransom wrote in and said you had also knocked off there for a minute, and I'm wondering what's going on with the broadcast from that alone. Because you went silent for a while before, now mine went silent. So obviously it's not your computer or my line, it's something else in the middle. See what I mean? This kind of talk is going to be verboten very quickly, because when the truth comes out about this, and I'm just wondering how much they can bury it in the news, because social media moves so fast and everybody knows somebody living out here. But think about how the invasion would go, Ransom. If you can get a full spearhead in and encircle on many corners because of this disaster, and then suddenly these same invasive forces have come in, and the guise of, you will listen to me now, and if you say no, then what? Like, the spearhead is already in there, and this would be, like I say, one of the most difficult areas of America to bring communism into, because everybody would resist. But now this happened. And where does that leave our flag floating in the floodwaters? Ransom?
Yes. I don't know,
Go, man. I'm done rambling.
It's just a whole thing. Like, it's so obvious that we've been talking about it for years now. It's the slow shut off of America. And it's great when nature helps them do that. They never let an emergency go to waste. They're going to be milking the whole area. And that's the whole thing about the monopoly of the rescue. They don't care about your blankets and your food and helping people or saving their lives. They want those dollar bills removed from you. It's not really that they want them so much. It's that they don't want you to have it, because if you to have it, then you start living comfortable, and then you have political power and middle class purchasing and business power, right? They don't want that. That's what's being turned off. And if you can just ignore a region for a while, and I hate to say it, there's all of these different agendas out there and groups talking about people that got mistreated in history. Some of the poorest people that have ever lived in the United States has lived in this region, all through the whole region, the Appalachians all the way up. Still to this day, there's miles and miles of cities that have been left behind. Either they shut down their coal thing, or they shut down their steel thing, or whatever they had in their area. It got shut down. And then you see the government continuing to just do it. And then now they have these cons that they're using to, use it like the environment. And I keep pointing out that this exact storm has happened twice before in the same line, hit the same places, flooded the same areas. But they're going to try to convince you that it's because you're driving your car around, or because, you didn't agree to let them put those monstrous windmills everywhere across the landscape, killing all the birds and whatever, and then breaking down in a few years, so that you're on the hook for paying for it. And now I saw an article, I think it's Costco. You remember, like a few months ago, I brought up that they were selling the buckets, the doomsday buckets. So they're trying to jump on the bandwagon of the prepper movement and the preparedness movement. And they've been doing that. And now they're offering, if you just pay them monthly, they'll make sure that you have what you need in an emergency, supposedly. So it's like a monthly metering of being prepared. Think about that. So now, not only is your electricity, your gas, your entertainment, your news feeds, all the way down to your breath when it comes to carbon taxes and carbon programs, green programs that are, all of them reaching into your pocket, all of them. Taking your money away so that you don't have use for it to do, things like home repair, inventing things at home, paying for your kids' education so they could figure out what they're going to be. This is all the things that they're taking away. And it's not just us. We haven't even been talking about Europe and, all the crazy stuff that's going on in the background. Talk about America first. This is an America first conversation. What does America need first? Well, evidently, you need to be able to deal with natural disasters on your own. You need to be able to deal with law enforcing on your own. In other words, protecting yourself. And these are all the areas that they're now telling you can't do that. You can't defend yourself. You can't protect your property. You can't stay on your property. Now, I know there's some conspiracy theories on, directed weather, blah, blah, blah. I don't actually, believe that that happened. However, the other part of the theory, which is that there are companies just begging and waiting to take control of land, houses, all of that part is true. So it doesn't matter, if you believe in whatever, why the storm happened. The storm did happen. And just like in Lahaina, There's going to be these big corporations that are going to swoop in, I don't know, BlackRock, Vanguard, and buy up everything. And, you know as well as I know what's under it. It's completely untapped resources that America owns, rare earth elements, steel, coal, all of it. It's right beneath our feet. We know how to get it out of the ground. We know how to repair the earth now, and we know how to extract it. And that would keep us independent for hundreds, if not 1,000 years into the future if we used it for us and, made that civilization, that utopia, that American dream in which each individual person has rights and the freedom to life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. Now, you can't have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness if you're regulated to the grave from birth to death, if you're taxed on every single avenue of the human domain, if the government tells you when and where you can live and when and where you can defend yourself, when and where you can talk, and what you're going to talk about and what you're going to think. All of it's complete corporate, communist, Marxist takeover from one end to the other. You can put all of the little programs together, the housing market, the influx of immigrants, the BLMs, the Antifas, et cetera, et cetera. The whole thing is designed for destabilization, division, and to keep everybody lethargic, arguing, confused, and unprepared. And this is the realignment of America, is whether or not you're going to go down their path of destruction or whether you're going to start ignoring them and start doing your own thing, which eventually, when enough people do that, it makes them powerless. They have no power of it. If a whole entire state community is saying we don't like that, guess what happens? They don't like that and it goes away. But that's the only time it happens. When people continue to argue about it for decades, the government does what the government does. It's a uniparty that seems to have been given over to some foreign power. I would say that's the globalist, Marxist, communist movement, which is the corporations, the royalty, the global elite, all of these secret schools of learning, the secret societies. All of that's not just a conspiracy theory. It's just a conspiracy against you. And that's why they added that whole, theory addition to the word conspiracy with the JFK thing. But ironically, back in the day, is they wanted to call anybody that had any questions about the official narrative a conspiracy theorist. And now they don't even use the word theorist. Oh, he's a conspiracy guy, right? Yeah, I am, because there are conspiracies. The greatest conspiracy theory out there is that the conspiracies out there aren't real.
Hey, dude, you're going too woo-woo on me. You're talking about the invasive hominid species that has not taken control of this planet, but has been in control for at least 4,000 years. And you wonder why, right this second, everything needs to change on a dime, literally. Is it this new magnetic field state that we're coming in where suddenly their power will be lessened because of faster vibratory field around our solar system and greater armor of our galaxy, regional stars? Is that what we're passing through? And that's the reason that they know that their grip on dark energy will be less and less because the vibration, man, and I really mean that. You're just talking about electrical waves. We could talk about sound waves. You could talk about colors on a paper, but that's a very slow vibration of light color. If you get that faster, sound would be the lowest, and then you could come up a spectrum up there, and then you could get into vibratory light and frequency. But then when you get into the electromagnetic sphere, then you're amping it up yet again. The invasive hominid species. So, speaking of spinning on a dime, Viv B is saying here, those areas are also using cash and silver to buy stuff. Small denomination bills are more valuable than face now. Yeah, I talked about that yesterday on Mike Adams' show because there's a shortage of them. So when I was talking about silver, I've also had this friend of mine, Kevin, when we go out, one of us will pay. It doesn't really matter. It's just the point of trying it. Like one of us will pay for dinner and the other one pays them back using silver. But then, like if I was paying for Kevin, I'd give him silver and then he'd have to give me change. And what would the change be? in silver, for silver or for dollars exchanged back and change for silver back. Because the small denomination silver is what very, very few people have. Everybody's got 1 ounce rounds. But make me change for a 1 ounce round and pay me back in silver, because that's the only thing that's going to work. Well, then you're coming into constitutional silver, pre-64 silver. War nickels, something like this, mercury dimes. I got a bunch of the Ben Franklin halves. Those are awesome. But break me off, chip me off some change off a 1 ounce round, and then kick me back in the same. I need half an ounce of return to silver. So the purchase I want to make only costs half an ounce of silver equivalent. I need a half ounce of silver back, not money, not paper money. Give me a half ounce of silver back. This is difficult to do unless you're already prepared to a small denomination of, like I say, constitutional silver. And then the small denomination bills are more valuable than face value. Yeah, I'd heard this before in many a disaster situation where you go in somewhere and then you pay for something, but they don't have any change because they've already run through all the 5s and 1s that were in the store. Because there's no Brinks trucks bringing you new money in. Whatever they had that got exchanged in the community out is all there was. It was a very limited supply of paper notes going into the community. And once the first amount of buying was done and they were actually giving correct change, I come into the 20 and my thing was $11. Great, I'm going to get $9 of change back, probably a 5 and 4 1s. Okay, well, that's only going to last a few more hundred times before a store is out of $1 bills or $5 bills or $10 bills. So I'd heard the same thing, that a dollar's not really worth a dollar. It's worth more than that. And again, it's not like outside of Asheville, 50 miles, the $1 is worth $1.10. It's not like that. It's what you're willing to bargain, or somebody will be willing to trade you for those changed dollars. Now, what I'd heard before was, if you're like, storekeepers were giving more than the value of the dollars if you brought $1 bills in. Like if you bought 50 $1 bills in, you would get $60 to $70 worth of merchandise because they need the ones. And the same with the 5s, you know, whatever the rate is over that you could exchange with somebody. All right, so the Viv B, thanks for that. And I talked about that too, and you're hearing the same thing. So this is another thing to prepare for. Like, everybody says, all right, you got to have money out of the bank. You got to have money out of the ATM. Well, my friends, almost all money from the ATM is 20s. And I know a lot of people who kick back some hundreds, you know, so you got, 10 hundreds in case of an emergency. Okay, well, break me off change for 100 in an emergency situation where your thing is $5 and I don't have change. It's either you give me the 100 or you don't get the thing, bro. I don't have change. Look in the drawer. I got nothing left. And eventually the storekeepers are going to wind up with all these large denomination bills, but no change. So here's Hilltop Prepper. Thanks for the update here. About 80 people in Cock County have water now, still under boil water advisory. That's where your straw would come in there, Ransom. A couple people got sick from the water. And if I may, I had this already ready for us tonight, if I can find the same thing again. It was the FEMA. It was a PDF, Ransom. Where was that PDF I sent you from FEMA earlier about water and what you had to do for the water? Let me see if I can find that again while you're right here. They were talking about distilling water. So FEMA had this thing about what can you do for water preparedness, and I will pop it open here for us. And it is FEMA.gov/PDF/library. And then in there you can find the food and water in an emergency FEMA American Red Cross 16-page PDF. Okay, now one thing they're talking about here, it's great. They have a nice list of shelf storable foods to talk about powdered milk, dried fruits, dried crackers, potatoes used within 6 months. 1 year canned condensed milk. Well, hopefully the emergency won't last a year. If we're still at this a year later, we in the Southeast probably would have broken off to a different country on our own and seceded from the U.S. at that point. That's the only way that you would still be relying on emergency foods a year after this event, unless something catastrophically wrong has gone on. But how to cook if the power goes out. This is an interesting one. I mean, I'm just reading you the manual here. So, in your head, take note of how prepared are you for this? For emergency cooking indoors, you can use a fireplace, obvious. Charcoal grill or camp stove used outdoors. Okay, you just went through a torrent of water ripping all resources away from your fingertips. You might have a broken glass bottle that you maybe can get hot enough through a sun ray to spark something that's wet. You know, everything that you know in this manual is gone, like the skill to find dry wood. And, you know, almost all downed trees that have been laying there have dry wood. Just cut the bark off and get down deep in, and you can get a bunch of splinter wood out of that and then start another fire, or just start a fire in the log after you hollow some out there a bit. The chance to find resources that are dry and in easy array, you know, after some sort of emergency, that's going to be, you know, difficult for many because you're in an emergency. Now, here's the one I didn't understand, Rand, so maybe you can explain to me here. They have different methods on how to clean your water. Boiling the water is the safest method for treating water. Okay, which loops us back into, is everybody going to have a way to start a fire? Because most of what you would consider relying on the wood is wet wood, unless you know how to take the bark off and get down to the dry wood. And only people that have done that before will know how to do that. Chlorination. Liquid bleach and regular household bleach contains about 5 to 6% sodium hypochlorite, or chlorite, excuse me. That's a TE, not a DE. Don't use scented bleaches or color-safe bleach. Just use bleach. 16 drops per gallon of water. Now, please remember, that does not remove the debris, the silt, the mud. You're going to need an anticoagulant for that, or you're going to need a filter to actually pour it through, like a coffee filter or your shirt or something, to get all of that, whatever debris out of there to make it drinkable. All right, and then they come to the last part here where it says distillation. Now, we have been dissuaded from distilling anything for as long as I can remember, from the roaring 20s with Prohibition to more modern era where it was illegal to distill your own, until just recently where people were allowed more higher proof for their wines, for their meads, for their own homebrew beers. And now distilling is allowed as long as you're not selling it, obviously, for personal consumption. So this distilling thing has never been part of an American culture, except here in Appalachia way back in the day when everybody was running shine. Out here, this manual makes sense because a lot of people understand distillation because Grandpa was distilling the apple schnapps after the harvest every year. At least out here, they were running some corn mash. They were doing a couple washes here, fruit wash like apple wash, definitely pear, crab apple wash, Johnny Appleseed, thank you very much for the base ingredient. But I would say the rest, an enormous amount of the population of America would have no idea when I said, can we set up distillation? Can we get that evaporative condensate to drip back down out of something? Like you would look at with like got 2 heads or 3 heads, and I can't believe that FEMA would put this in. Yeah, it's an option, but it's not an option barely anybody knows because it's been drilled out of us. It's been knocked out of us. And this comes back to the self-sufficiency again. You know, this is a perfect way, if you distill your own alcohols, to have something that you can put tinctures and have very strong, high ABV to do tinctures. So when you're running that still and you're bringing out, like you get your 4 shots done, and I like to dig deep into the 4 shots and get out even more, like 50 mils more than I would need, or 100 mil more, depending on how much run, to get it out of there so it doesn't, you don't get that A, taste, and B, hangover. But that first jar coming off, that thing is running super high. That's the one you save for the tinctures or rubbing alcohols, either one. You know, so I'm looking at this going, that doesn't work for most of the population. So again, what kind of straws do you have and this sort of thing? But let me come back. One more comment here. Ryan had sent me some comments. Thanks, Ryan, for doing that. Let me see here. RG was with us on the side of on the dashboard, the keyboard. All right, again, 80% of people in Cotton County got water now. There is a lot of sewage in the water. I agree. There absolutely is. Then Oracle of the West talking about those 360 transformers. Even to rewire all of North Carolina is going to take years and years and years. And Janet, SCH, or Jeanette, excuse me, SCH, I didn't, when I was speaking in the beginning of the show, talking about, excuse me, FEMA being out of money, but they'll get some more funds coming in. But she says, local Fed government, the fiscal year starts in July 1st. So put that in perspective. From July 1st until now, FEMA had run through $600 and some million already. Doing what? So they're already out of money for the year? Okay, July, August, September, October, that's like 3 months or under. What happened? See, this is why a lot of congressional persons are going, whoa, what happened to the money? You ran through all that money in less than 3 months. Like, what went on? Where'd the money go? Follow the money. Follow the money, Ransom. Where does it take us, do you think?
It takes us to election time and past it. They want to make sure they control every bit of time here. And, you know, I was looking at some of that stuff, and you were talking about fire. We really need to do a video where we go through, like, I have a go bag. Like, every time you say something, I'm already like, well, I got that planned for. Literally filtering the water even before it gets to the water straw. Like, in my pack, one pack, I have a pillowcase that's made out of really tightly weaved nylon that water will drip through, but nothing solid. Not only that, if you get like a bubble hash kit, which is for, making your own medicine at home, I guess, like brownies and stuff from the cannabis plant. They have a bag system that only lets the little, THC trichomes fall through the very end of it, so you get more of a pure product. You can also use that layering system, which is a consecutive bags that takes out bigger and bigger particles, or smaller and smaller particles, I should say.
Yeah, what's the micron size on? Do you know the micron size on some of those bags?
Well, I don't offhand, but yeah, it's listed on each bag what it is, and then you get to a smaller thing. But you could use that for filtering out your water. You put it in a pan, boil that water, then drink it out of your straw. And then there's probably no chance that you're going to be doing that. But I was just thinking about the fire thing. For about $4 on Amazon, you can start anywhere little fire starters. They're like a little wick that's twisted up, made out of, I forgot what it's made out of, but it'll light anywhere. It'll light wet, and if you have magnesium in your bag, a magnesium strip, all kinds of these really, really cheap products will guarantee that if you have a bag accessible in one of these, you should get it, put it right next to you in case things actually do turn bad. It's right there. You grab it, even if it's in a flood, you grab that thing. And you have everything in there. Like right now, I could just start pulling out stuff out of my bag. Yes, I got fire. Yes, I have filtered water. Yes, I can go through smoke or be able to breathe through that or whatever. It's all in the bag. It's small. It's light. And there's really no excuse for you not to put $10 in each bag. You could have $20 in each bag, $30 in each bag, and now you have a substantial go bag that's actually useful. You know what I mean? So you know that you're going to filter water. You know that you can start a fire. You know that you're going to have a tool access. And we've talked about that before. Like if you have in your bag a good little wood saw, you could take down a tree in seconds. But not only that, you could take out debris that you need to pass. You could cut things that around you and use your environment to your benefit. And that's like a big deal. It's nobody lives that way anymore. And it's time that people wake up and move back to that. And, I'm looking at these posts and, I kind of showed one of them. They're talking about what we were talking about earlier is that people that are going in there are finding lots of bodies that the local people are going through body bags left and right. So I think the number's just going to shoot up, or they may try to censor it. I mean, think about it. There was literally no media coverage for about 3 days. So this is like the perfect storm for the leftist communist kind of deep state, I should say. And not only can, I'm sorry to say, but that whole swath of area, it's unlikely most of those people are going to be voting. You think they're going to care about that in a month? Maybe. But then they're going to say, well, all the facilities where we count it, the vote counting machines, all of that, it's all ruined. It's gone. It's, so what happens then? They just discount those areas? I mean,
no,
I don't know.
You have to mail it in. You'll have 100%
mail it in, right? Isn't that exactly what they wanted the last 4 years, right? The mail-ins that you don't have to prove came from anyone in particular. This is the whole crazy system that they've been pushing, is where they have authority over every action that you do. And that way they can kettle people into situations, or if nature just throws wrench in it, they have that situation. And isn't it weird that they start talking about, I know that supposedly it's resolved until January 13th or whatever, but the strike, just right in time, right after a major disaster, we're going to play with people's emotions and tell them, well, we might not, let the cargo come through. Maybe people might need just in time where they're at, but I don't want to, work right now. So it seemed like kind of almost a fake strike. It seemed like they already got what they wanted, to shut up and go away. And it was weird. It was more like the government kind of threatening, look what could happen if we're not in charge of everything. Look what could happen if we're not in negotiations with the unions and everybody. And it's all a monopoly on power. It all goes back to that same thing, what you're allowed to do versus what they're allowed to do. And it's increasingly shrinking what a citizen can legally do without being harassed. And this disaster is putting a spotlight on the transformation of how we do things in this allegedly free country. That prepping, I mean, I don't want to harp on it, but just the easiness to have several bags located in your vehicle, in your house, maybe one for every person in your family that has, emergency blankets that are cheap. What are they, like $3? You can get, like, I don't know what it is, 10 of them or something. The little Mylar things. You can get those fire starters, about $4, $5, a water straw, I don't know, $10, $15, whatever that is. So for a very small investment, you can make the difference on whether or not you're helpless or not. And that's a big deal. And not to harp on that or nothing, but I'm just saying that's such a big deal that, and I've been wondering all week, really, because, that whole area was without internet, without phone. I doubt, there was that many landline activities that worked, if people still had that or whatever. And people were just using their phones and their service as long as it lasted. Then there's no electricity to further show us what's happening. And I was wondering how many people were listening to this Revolution.radio broadcast on Civilization Cycle, where they heard us say that you need to take care of yourself. You need to check the area, the topographical situation. That when we said that the power's probably going to be out, that there's probably going to be flash floodings, that there's going to be other people probably trying to take what you have, which is all of that has occurred, unfortunately. So I'm not saying I told you so, but I did mention it.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning it, Ransom. That's great. But in all honesty and seriousness, this cashless society, like, think about how you're not able to operate now. You don't have any bank machines. You don't have any access to online banking. What you have for cash in your pocket or tradables, whatever to trade, anything. Book, I'll trade you a silver for your psychoactive plant book, whatever. Without cash, you're going to have to trade something. But anyway, I appreciate you joining us tonight. We've been rambling so fast, time's gone pretty quick. But join us on civilizationcycle.com. That's the website specifically for our podcast. And if you like the content, put your email in there. I tried to get on, but for some reason, MailChimp was, I don't know, I couldn't find any of the images in my MailChimp account. Something happened. They all got turned into a different file format in MailChimp. Otherwise, I would have sent those show notes out just before the program. But we get you a bullet point list of the things we talked about in the show, so then you can have the conversations with others. And you can also have a bullet point. So if you want to do your own research, then you can continue to do that. And also buy me a coffee. Again, listener supported here for our station, for Revolution Radio, but also for our podcast. And if you did like the content, head on over to Buy Me a Coffee. But for us, we're working late nights, so we're like, buy me a double espresso. I do appreciate you watching, spending your valuable time. The people in North Carolina, East Tennessee really need help. So if you're hearing this for the first time and you're like, I didn't hear anything about this on the news, that's because you're not supposed to. This is a incredibly damaging event. So please send any help you can. And if you want, get a hold of Ransom or myself. We'll get you in contact with the right people so we all can do our part to make this world a better place and help those in need. Appreciate you listening. We'll see you next week. Bye for now. Make sure you can make some change for a 1-ounce silver round.